It's been years since the Rolanti Civil War, and Valli, the city of bamboo and sun, has been healing very well. The destruction from the war has been paved over, and the Savanni no longer live as slaves in small huts. With the great blast furnace having been rebuilt, copper tools have become widespread and standard among all citizens, being traded in the massive hayfield market in exchange for other goods. It was probably the greatest thing to come out of this post-war era. Savanni and Jungli alike connected via the medium of exchange. And it showed great promise in expansion, as money was in the process of being invented, and some daring villagers would venture into the jungle in search of new luxuries or resources to exchange back home, making discoveries otherwise not having been made. This new wave of mass commerce, an invention by Chieftain Aki, who ever since his farm days had been an economic savant. But looking at the city, he knew its growth was finite. At some point they'd have to venture out into the great unknown, to discover the world around them, and perhaps found a new settlement, or perhaps to discover another civilization. These hypothetical explorers would most likely head into the old Coco mountain range, where they descended from. If their great forefathers were able to live there for hundreds of years, it was clearly habitable and safe, and may bear other civilizations just like them. Chieftain Aki promptly puts together an 8-man mountaineer/commando crew and a veteran sergeant to whip the boys into shape. They're trained for years to be one-man armies, and clever hunter-gatherers who will be able to survive off any land, to navigate jungles, savanna, and mountains alike. But they will also be educated, and some trained to be scientists, in order to discover new, useful knowledge and/or material in the great outside world, because there would be much to discover. But as these commandos' training progressed, a great cultural shift had begun occurring between them, the citizens, and the village militia. Competition between the two military factions, and the villagers' admiration and respect shifting from militia to the commandos. Many of these men protecting the village were veterans of the Civil War, who had been revered solemnly. And now their fall from relevance? It was brutal for them. Times were changing, and as the commandos had finished their training, new technologies had in the meanwhile been invented. With paper, commando scientists could field more data in their inventory, being able to write down logs and discoveries faster and in more abundance. The advent of money, though, was a fascinating subject when you'd study the commandos. They were raised in a pre-currency world, and the changes it was making to society were disturbing most of them. While they earned very well and did enjoy purchasing aristocratic luxuries like chocolate, they didn't need money. They could survive on their own easily, and many did, refusing to partake in economics and protest, which would isolate the commando culture somewhat, mystifying the faction, and having people be even more fascinated with them. The city was expanding and starting to hit its limits. The commando's goal was going to be to either find a new settlement or some tool that could quickly take down the stubborn jungle woods. The goal of finding another civilization, however, had been put on the back burner. Nonetheless, they were ready for their job. But one more test awaited them before they could set off into the unknown. They had yet to know what this test would be. At dawn, a great horde of militiamen would assault the commandos' camp. The commandos had zero clue what was going on, but they knew exactly what to do. Now, having taken their steps into the jungle, the commandos divide into two groups of 4, and they both pincer into jungle thickets, where they'll shake the approximately 15 militiamen off their trails for enough time for both the groups to meet in the clearing behind the thickets. As Group A kites 8 militiamen into the clearing, the other group are there just in time to flank and destroy most of the militia detachment. A tactically brilliant move called defeat in detail. Only a couple of warriors managed to retreat back into thickets. The Commandos do not give chase though. There's still a smaller force than the militia, for now. As the surviving militiamen scream for tactical retreat, they all take defensive posture on the steep mountain foot. They're dazed and confused, but one clever warrior is able to think of a plan. There's 2 ways the Commandos are likely to attack: reaching their hill from the tops of jungle trees, or climbing the hill sunbound through the thicket. Going down the hill to move to a different position would be certain death, so there was only one way to go: up. This was done slowly. These were not mountaineers. They reach a defensible circle of thicket with a clearing in the middle. Well, these men were not trained for the jungle and were completely outmatched in capability. Defending on the hills was their best chance, and they were hoping the Commandos would get cocky and attack their fortified position. And so they waited. But the Commandos, well, they had another trick up their sleeve. Landing like artillery on their position, but with nowhere to easily retreat, they fight like cornered animals, and do put up a good fight, but it's no match for the Commandos' excellent tactical brilliance and skill in combat. The militia have been defeated, in a friendly way, but the militia were a lot more tough than the Commandos had expected, and in the end, they learned that the entire trial was not only a test to see if they could be victorious, with great odds against them, but to also let out steam that had been brewing between the 2 military factions. All the idea of Sergeant Kuru. It increased respect between both the groups. The friendly skirmish would lead to the militia training much more fervently and frequently from now on. But it was time to say goodbye to Valli now. Commandos would set out sunbound to the Tilla, the mountain their forefathers crossed to pass into Valli. Passing through the Tonga Gate, it would be their last interaction with anybody for a long time. And up the mountain they went. At sunset, the summit was reached. The whole world in front of them. After looking around for only a little bit though, a spot for a settlement was immediately found. Right next to the Tilla, very close to Valli, a small jungle, lots of rain, lots of water. Settlement checked off the list. But it was a grueling trip even for them to get up here. How in God's name would average villagers come here? It wasn't likely at all that this place would turn into some sort of massive community like Valli. Instead, what would be really great for the village would be if Commandos could find something that could make room in the unconquerable Mishwapa. Something that could cut down the forest, which has been said to be impossible. The big brains in the commando unit think otherwise, though. A great tool could easily take down a Mishwapa tree, and it would most likely be a stronger type of bronze that hasn't been discovered yet. So, despite achieving their utmost goal, the scientists would insist on going for a hunt for this magic ore. To descend to the valley and scan the massive stone crusts of the Kok. Even with the massive mineral deposits at their fingertips, it is hard to find anything substantial. But they do find something. A black, dusty rock. But it's brittle. It's no match for a massive tree. Nonetheless, they take one as a sample, and the search for this ore that might not even exist carries on. For days. The Commandos' luck would turn one noon, however. They're able to spot something interesting in a stone basin. A beige, golem-like material. This might be it. With a pickaxe, they mine a very decently sized sample. But the sound of copper hitting rock awakens something. The Commandos know exactly what it is. A wild, rogue golem. The tale of such a being has always been an urban legend around Valli for decades. It's a cryptid, completely unsubstantiated, until now. And it's going to have to die. The Commandos hit the beast with acacia logs, and the acacia shatters. The Commandos then hit the beast with cobblestone rocks, and the cobblestone rocks shatter. After that, they're all out of ideas. This thing just won't die, and is now just whirling rocks at them ad infinitum. But the sample of that magic ore is still down there, and they need to get it, no matter what. So the boys move to a safe location to rest, while some stay up and see if it will fall asleep in its cave. It doesn't. It sleeps straight on the ore that they need. So the next day, the boys start plotting. They come up with some ingenious plans. One involves putting one of the Commandos into a dummy log, rolling it down, and distracting the golem long enough for him to snatch the piece of... It doesn't work. So, next idea. Let's amass a metric shit ton of logs, push him down the thing, and see what happens. With the army of logs ready, all they have to do is give it a little push. And it doesn't work. Alright, enough of this. The best marksman of the group comes forward. He talks of a weak spot on all golems. The eyes. It's a damn hard shot. But if you get the end of a spear into that little spot, it'll go down like a bag of rocks. So, this marksman gets ready, takes aim, and throws the best damn shot he can, and... it shatters on impact. Fine, we'll do it like the veterans. Get a long piece of reinforced vine from the jungle, and take this damn thing down once and for all. A very nice piece of vine is grabbed between 8 of the Commandos at night. All their combined strength and the element of surprise will finish this. They'll get the vine close to the golem's neck, and then wrap it around multiple times. Then, once the golem wakes, they'll tear it down to the ground. Well, it doesn't go as they had planned. Now the golem has a whip that he uses to keep the Commandos away from it. Is there any real solution to this problem? The Commandos are losing hope. They sit around trying to come up with ideas, while the golem seems very satisfied in itself. A lot of time passes. It actually seems like the golem gets bored, and he begins throwing rocks at the boys again. Well, it seems like they just got what they've been asking for this entire time. And then some. The scientists take a good, large piece of it with them to the blast furnace back home to see if this is what they've been looking for. But there may be an easier way of checking if this stuff is the real deal. Oh yeah, now we're talking. Nobody humiliates the Commandos like this and gets away with it. There it laid, dead, and the scientists' hypothesis correct. This is exactly what they needed. Checked off the list. All that was left was this civilization crap. Who cares? There are no other civilizations. We'll leave it to another day. The Commandos would pack their bags and get ready to head home. Till one of them notices and points at something to the right.